Welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey Live. Oh my goodness, guys, this morning has been crazy. Yeah, I apologize for that, guys. Not the start I was looking for. I was trying to do something different on Streamlabs, and it completely blew up in my face. So unfortunately, for I've been talking for the past half hour on Streamlabs, and it didn't. None of it was loading to you guys. So I got to figure out what the problem was. Um, but I was streaming that whole time. I was not in the gym. I did that this morning. I made sure I was ready by 10 o'clock, and unfortunately, didn't work out the way I wanted. So thank you for your guys' patience. What's going on, Ali Dash? Yes, I was just explaining we've been having some problems here with the live stream. I had some problems trying to do it with a third party, and I got to figure out how to do that. Maybe that's more of an off-season thing or something we do just testing wise, but that test failed miserably. So I apologize for that, guys. I was trying to use another streaming service thing, and it did not work. So I apologize for that. But I believe things should be fixed now. So let me know, guys, down below. Yeah, sorry about that, Urban. Sorry about that, Ali Dash. I saw Morgan in here a couple minutes ago. I saw Toe in here from Finland. 4K, Kevin. All right, good. And unfortunately, I was using my good camera, but things didn't really work. So I have a lot to talk about. So since we last talked, it was the Jacob Chikrin trade, right? That was the big move that was made. And since then, we've had a couple of more trades that have been some bigger, some smaller to an extent. Um, so the first trade we're going to go over, we talked about how the Oilers were going to make more moves, and they did. Nick Bukestad and Cam Dineen go to the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for a 2023 third-round draft pick selection and defenseman Michael Kesselring. It's a good pickup here for the Oilers. Didn't cost them in a lot. It didn't really cost them as much as I thought it would. But again, when you look at what they wanted to add before the deadline, they wanted to add another forward and another defenseman. They added both here. Cam Dineen, a puck moving defenseman, not really that good of a defenseman overall, but nonetheless, a great pickup here for the Edmonton Oilers on the back end. They also bring in Nick Bukestad. I have been talking, praising, and everything that you want to say about Nick Bukestad. He's on like a league minimum contract, a 1 year deal, not much, you're not worried about him long term. This is a great pickup for Nick Bukestad in the sense that he's going to add help to that bottom six that they desperately need. We always talk about how the Oilers don't have enough depth. They're changing the game here, right? They have added Matthias Ekholm, they've added Nick Bukestad, they've added Cam Dineen, really good additions to the Oilers group. And again, for the Coyotes, they pick up some more assets. A win-win situation here. The Vegas Golden Knights acquired Jonathan Quick. They've addressed their goalie situation. They desperately needed a goalie with Laurent Brossoit back on LTIR. They bring in Jonathan Quick. 50% of his salary is retained by the Blue Jackets. He said he wouldn't report to Columbus. He was not going to the Blue Jackets. He was not happy with the move, considering he was on a playoff team, getting shipped off to the 32nd team in the NHL standings. So he ends up going back to the West Coast here. He never actually went to Columbus, stayed in LA, and is now just moving down the road to Sin City to play for the Vegas Golden Knights. A great fit here. This is something that I really think was bound to happen. Getting a goaltender in Vegas with some of the moves they've made. Great fit overall. They acquired Michael Hutchinson as 7th-round pick in exchange for a guy that didn't want to be there. So can't really blame Columbus for that move. A smaller move here. Anders Bjork goes from the Boston Bruins to the Buffalo Sabres, now to the Chicago Blackhawks. He is traded for future considerations to Buffalo. They freed up some salary as well as a roster spot, which is the biggest thing with him off the board. Probably means that Buffalo could be making another move here on trade deadline day. So watch out for Kevin Adams and the Buffalo Sabres, because that seems like a move that's making room for later on. We also saw the Dallas Stars overnight making a move. Max Domi and Dylan Wells go to the Dallas Stars in exchange for a 2nd-round pick in 2025 and goaltender Anton Khudobin. The Dobby era in Dallas is over, as he is now a member of the Chicago Blackhawks. It's really just salary and roster management, but it's a good pickup here for the Dallas Stars. The rumored price as soon as last week, it sounded like Domi could go for a first. He ends up going for a second. And it sounds like, again, Chicago may have overplayed their hand with Domi, and they ended up getting less value for him in this deal. But nonetheless, a second-round pick, not too bad. We see a one-for-one deal between the Anaheim Ducks and the Blackhawks for Max Gollard and Dylan Sekura, switching up spots. Sekura was a pretty good prospect in Chicago, never really developed in Rockford with the Ice Hogs, never really developed in the NHL with the Chicago Blackhawks either. So now he heads out to Anaheim, hopefully trying to restart his career. We'll see how things go there. Looking at the deadline day cap space, and things are changing by the minute here. The Anaheim Ducks with over $60 million of cap space. Arizona with $67 million of cap space. Boston with 3. Boston with 78. Calgary with 3. Carolina with $2 million. Chicago with 24. Colorado, watch out for the Avalanche. They've got 5 million. Columbus has 12. Dallas has 2. Detroit has 33.3 million. The only team with 0 cap space left, the Edmonton Oilers. Florida Panthers with $1 million. LA with 6. Minnesota with 7. Montreal with 4. Nashville with 16. New Jersey with 1. The Islanders, watch for the Islanders. They made some transactions the other day, moved a little bit of cap. The Islanders have over $6 million of cap space. The Rangers have $7,000. Ottawa has $17 million. Philadelphia has 2.8. Pittsburgh, they've got $401,000. San Jose has $625,000. Seattle has 4. St. Louis has 6. Tampa Bay has $500K. Toronto still has 4. Vegas with $2 million. Vancouver with $3 million. Washington with over $7 million of cap space. And the Winnipeg Jets, watch for the Jets today, $4.8 million in cap space. So that is cap space central as of LTIR included. That's what we're looking like here today, starting the day with cap space for all of the teams across the NHL. And what are you guys saying in the chat? Welcome, guys. Nostalgia Mountain, welcome to the chat. Urban, Pauline Mercer, welcome to the chat. Ali Dash Urban, Toe from Finland. What's going on, man? Welcome to the chat, guys. It's going to be a very interesting day here in the NHL. But this is going to be an interesting one because of just the amount of moves we've seen already happen the past 2 days. How many more trades can they squeeze out before the end of before 3 o'clock this afternoon? How many more deals can we see here today? I see you guys in the chat. Thank you guys so much for contributing. I definitely appreciate the support here in the channel. And we're getting pretty close to the money for the soundboard. I'm very excited for that. So hopefully we get that soundboard soon, guys. Make sure to like the video if you're joining us. Thank you so much for joining us here on this beautiful Friday afternoon here on Long Island, New York. We are here live for our 8th edition of the Goal Line Hockey Live podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. And not really a lot of action so far. I would expect things to pick up around 11 o'clock. You know, probably a lot of the GMs are getting into their room to chat, getting their McDonald's breakfast, getting some coffee, Starbucks, McDonald's, Dunkin', who knows? Guys, thank you so much for getting those likes up. Thank you so much. Much appreciated for joining the New York boy, the Long Island boy, talking about some hockey news, guys. Thank you so much. So what do you guys want to talk about today? Trades. What trades do you think will come down the pipeline? What teams will be most active? Let me know what you guys are thinking. Welcome to the chat, Tanner. Tanner says, already been a lot of trades leading up to today. I think the trades will be low today. And I expected, guys, thank you so much. 10 likes already. You guys are the best. We got over $90 of super chats yesterday. That is our most super chatted live stream. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. And like I said, you guys are the best. Toe says JVR asking price is a third round pick. I would assume it's 50% retained. Will anyone get him? The problem with that, Toe, is the fact that his salary, like they're going to have to retain 50% of his salary, and it's got to be the right team. And that's why the Jacob Chikrin trade ended up being so low, because so many teams wanted to get Chikrin. They just didn't have the cap space, and Arizona wasn't willing to retain. Now, the good news for JVR is it's only a 1-year deal. So it's probably going to be a lot easier for, like I said, Philadelphia is going to be willing to retain more because it's only the rest of this year. Javanti says, welcome to the chat, Javanti. He says, I'm confused about the Penguins getting Bonino. They can't drop Drew O'Connor after the way he's been playing. What do you think they do? Yeah, that was a really weird one, honestly. I think for the Penguins, I was kind of talking about them maybe making a big move, which obviously they have not done. Obviously, this is he's trying to win back the fans here in Pittsburgh is Ron Hextall. That's what this move is about. Honestly, I don't think it's a great move. I think there were better guys available for the Penguins, but trying to bring back that nostalgia, he's not what he used to be. So it's a decent pickup in the sense that he's trying to win back the fan base. But I don't know. Ron Hextall has got a lot of work to do if he wants to win back this fan base. So we'll see what happens. But I understand it, but I don't understand it. I think that honestly, Drew O'Connor is the guy. As well as, again, I don't think they want to give up on Ty Smith yet or Owen Pickering, but those are two very good prospects as well in Pittsburgh. The fact that they've gone through this deadline without giving up any of those guys, I think is a win for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're mortgaging the future right now, trading a second or whatever. I assume a third for Bonino or a fourth. You guys can let me know. But at this point, I think it's a good thing they didn't trade any of those three better prospects that the Penguins have. And guys, thank you so much for joining the stream. So we just got to trade a couple of in the past hour here. Jacob Vrana and 50% of his salary retained goes to the St. Louis Blues. So the Blues picking up a couple of reclamation projects. Jacob Vrana goes to the Red Wings for a 7th round pick, and Dylan McLaughlin, a decent pickup for the Red Wings. They didn't want to keep Vrana. I think this is good for Vrana. He gets an opportunity somewhere else. Like I said, the Blues picking up a couple of new guys here. We see Vrana, Kapanen going to the St. Louis Blues here over the last couple of days for cheap. And they're going to probably get power play time the rest of this season with some of the better players in St. Louis. There's a good opportunity for guys like Vrana and Kapanen to potentially turn around their careers. So we'll see what happens there. Guys, thank you so much for getting those likes up. You guys are awesome. And the fact that Detroit is retaining 50% of the salary, I think this is just a win-win-win for everybody involved overall. Yeah, Wings, Blues, and Vrana all happy. Absolutely. Yeah, Urban, the Wings are selling indeed. The Hronek trade, the Bertuzzi trade. Honestly, the fact that they got, what was it for Bertuzzi? They got, I think it was a first and a fourth for Tyler Bertuzzi. And then what they got for Hronek. So basically, they got 2 first-round picks, a second and a fourth for Tyler Bertuzzi and Filip Hronek. That is really good value for a guy that, in all honesty, how many people really thought, were they really worth that, right? So, again, that's Steve Yzerman. The difference between Steve Yzerman and Bill Armstrong, and I don't mean to call out Bill Armstrong here, but the fact he only got a potential first-round pick and a second-round pick, or 2 second-round picks and a potential first-round pick, that is not enough for Chikrin. The fact that what Steve Yzerman got for Hronek and Bertuzzi just shows the difference in Steve Yzerman and Bill Armstrong as general managers, and it's so glaring when you look at a deal like that, right? The way they've handled the market is incredibly different. And again, kind of shows you what, and again, I hate to say this, partly on Columbus too, the Blue Jackets kind of screwed themselves thinking that Boston deal was in place, weren't looking around, the deal wasn't finished, and then Boston ended up going and making a deal with the Capitals and left, the Blue Jackets kind of high and dry. Huge mistake there by Jarmo Kekalainen, and they ended up only getting a first and a third for Corpusalo, who I guess is the equivalent of a third-round pick. I feel like they could have got more for him, and Gavrikov only ended up being worth a first-round pick. I think that was a loss, honestly, for the Blue Jackets. Yo, what's going on, guys? We got our first super chat of the day, $2.79 Canadian. Thank you, Ali Dash. He says, breaking, wings sell seat cushions at Little Caesars Arena. Shout out to Ali Dash. He always comes in with the great super chats, guys. And that $2.79 is our first of the day. So if you want to guarantee that I answer your questions today, it's going to be busy. I see it already in the chat. If you want to guarantee that I answer your question, leave a super chat and I will answer it for you on the spot. But I'll try and answer as many of your guys' regular questions as I can as well. So that's what we're looking at today, guys. There's a bunch of you in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us today. And so you guys said, I believe it was a 4th and a 7th for Nick Bonino, or a 5th and a 7th. I guess in that sense, it's not too bad of a package. Welcome to the chat, Matt Stein. Welcome in. Rob Hubick. Yes, what's going on, Rob? I know you've mentioned, you said that you've watched some of my streams post-stream. So I appreciate your support, Rob. You've been watching some of my videos. I appreciate that support. Shout out to you. What else are you guys saying in here? Sup, Matt? Yep, what's going on? Yeah, the Verona deal is great, though. Hope fresh start does good for him. Yo, we got a super chat. $5 from Javante Patton. He says, thanks for the good work as always. Thank you, Javante. Love the super chat. Thank you so much as you're contributing to the Stream Deck soundboard fund. So hopefully I'll be getting that Stream Deck soundboard hopefully after today. I'll let you guys know on our next live stream. Thank you guys so much as always. Team Canada are interesting. So they got Carter Hart, Tristan Jarry, and Darcy Kemper. Team Canada looks pretty good. Damn. So we got a couple headlines here, and this is from Puck Report. They kind of a really good place to follow on Instagram. I really like their stuff. He says sources late on Thursday suggested at least 2 contenders remain interested in Joel Edmondson. Calgary has talked to Montreal about him, and that's from Eric Engels and Pierre LeBrun. So we'll see what happens there with Joel Edmondson. Headlines. The Penguins made a legit offer for JT Miller. High picks, but Canucks want actual players. They need a replacement center. Generally, the price was 2 first-round picks or a high prospect with a first-round pick. So we'll see what happens there. So JT Miller was potentially going to Pittsburgh. That would have been very interesting. Another one was, would be very interested or surprised if James Van Riemsdyk does not move. Vegas Golden Knights and Winnipeg are interested. The real interest is now on Kevin Hayes and Ivan Provorov, but they could wait until the summer. And that is from Frank Saravelli and Darren Drager. So we'll see what happens with James Van Riemsdyk, but I think the market has really dried up on him. So apparently, shout out to my girl, Ange. And her dad is actually a pretty big guy with the Rangers. She says, we're listening to you talk. Shout out to Ange and her dad. He works with the Rangers organization. He does the video game reviews. So that's pretty cool. And he expects them to make moves. So maybe an inside source that the Rangers may be making a move. So we'll see what happens there. So we'll see what happens with JVR too. Another headliner here from David Pagnotta. He says, a curious name making the rounds lately is Alex Turcotte. At least 2 Western Conference teams have inquired sources about that, and that is from David Pagnotta. So watch out for Alex Turcotte here this afternoon. So the LA Kings may move on from one of their, back in the day, a first-round pick, a prized prospect back in the day, in Alex Turcotte. So let me know what you guys think of that. So according to Frank Saravelli and Elliot Friedman, it's possible Washington flips Craig Smith, but no one wanted him as a cap dump from Boston. Washington will keep Trevor Van Riemsdyk. Rumblings that they're talking extension. So keep out for Trevor Van Riemsdyk here today. Either expect before the deadline an extension with TVR in Washington, or likely he will be dealt. Oh, he wants to know if you think they're going to make any more moves. They don't have a ton more cap space, and that is on the Rangers. Honestly, I don't know what the Rangers are going to do. I could see them maybe trying to add another defenseman if they could somehow circumvent the cap, but you're going to need somebody coming out the door if the Rangers make any other moves. If they do what the Leafs did, Leafs 2.0, if money's going to be coming in, money has to go out. And if the Rangers are okay with moving on from a Jimmy Vesey or a Barclay Goodrow or a Ryan Lindgren now, unless they're willing to move some of those salaries, I do not think the Rangers will make any more moves at this point. What's another one here? And then Seattle. So this is from Seattle on Frank Saravelli. Seattle could be sellers more than buyers due to the high prices. Maybe Carson Soucy. There's interest in William Morgan. Morgan Geeky's name has been thrown out there as well. So Seattle may actually be selling. You're welcome, man. Of course, I have to take care of the lady that takes care of my chicken parm and makes my chicken parm for me. Shout out to Ange. Frank Saravelli says Nick Schmaltz and Lawson Krause have popped up in trade rumors lately. They could be a wild card. Some slight interest in Nick Ritchie. I think Nick Ritchie is a guy to watch for. Teams looking to add a little bit more grit to their team. I look at teams like the Calgary Flames, the Pittsburgh Penguins, depending on how serious they are about making the playoffs this year. So I think Nick Ritchie's name could eventually get traded today. I know it's probably not a guy that's going to fetch a first or a second round pick or even a third round pick, but I think Nick Ritchie's name will definitely be someone to watch for here today. Frank Saravelli also talked about the St. Louis Blues still trying to move a defender, would like to dump a guy like Marco Scandella. One other name to keep an eye on is Thomas Greiss. He is still available. He's a UFA this summer, so if a team's looking to add maybe a third goaltender, watch out for Thomas Greiss in St. Louis. Another one here from Frank Saravelli. He says a couple of players to watch in San Jose: Noah Gregor, Mario Ferraro. That's a very good defenseman. He struggled this year in San Jose, but a lot of people like Mario Ferraro. So keep an eye out for him today. They'd like to move on from Kevin Labanc, a year away from free agency. So watch out for Kevin Labanc today as well. They could also flip a forward like Vladislav Nemesnikov, who they picked up from the Tampa Bay Lightning the other day in a cap dump. If there's enough interest in Nemesnikov. So watch out for the Sharks today. Kevin Labanc, Vladislav Nemesnikov, Mario Ferraro, and Noah Gregor. So a couple of interesting names there. We'll see what happens. And of course, to round it out here this morning on Pierre Dorion, and this is from Bruce Garriott, who's an Ottawa Senators insider. He says the Senators would like to add depth at center for a reasonable price. Doubtful Cam Talbot goes anywhere. Teams called on Austin Watson, and the Sens are leaning toward keeping him. So he's probably going to be their own rental at this point. So watch out for a guy in Ottawa. And I thought Nick Bjugstad would have been a great fit there in Ottawa. Doesn't sound like anything's going to be happening there, but that is something that they could be looking at. Again, I look at a team maybe looking to add Nick Ritchie, Austin Watson. Those guys are kind of in the same market. If you end up going to a team like Pittsburgh or Calgary, or even a team like the LA Kings, I think could get a little bit bigger. Or the Buffalo Sabres. I think the Buffalo Sabres and the Red Wings, if the Red Wings want to maybe try and stay in the playoff chase a little bit, with the way Tkachuk was talking smack about them, kind of bullying them those last two games this past weekend, maybe Steve Yzerman kind of as a rental brings in a depth guy like that for a fifth or a sixth or seventh round draft pick. We'll see what happens there. Shout out to Ali Desh. He says, Bruce Garriott is a face for radio. Ouch. Ouch. I think that's a pretty big insult there. Ali Desh says, I don't think Ottawa should waste resources on bringing in a center. Just recall up Ridley Gregg. Our answer is within. There you go. You heard it from a Senators fan there in Ali Desh. Shout out to you. Rob Ubeck says, the Wings need toughness. As a Wings fan, they are soft. And if this weekend, that back-to-back against Ottawa proved anything about the Red Wings, even if it is for a fifth or a sixth or a seventh round pick, would you not bring in like a Nick Ritchie or an Austin Watson? I think that's a perfect fit for them. And what I mentioned earlier, Don Weaver says, shocked to see you do a live stream right now. Yeah, I am fully a go today. I made sure that I still have to work later tonight, which kind of sucks, But by then, it's 5 o'clock, so I don't have to worry about it. I will be here today, hopefully until 3 o'clock. That's my plan. If the stream and the chat's doing well, you guys are definitely keeping up the engagement. Thank you guys so much. But if you guys can, make sure if you have not already, make sure to like the video. But yes, Don, I did get back to you this morning. Some of those jerseys, I'm very jealous. I really like some of the Devils jerseys that Don has got. Shout out to Don Weaver. Oh man, I'm jealous of that Green Devils reverse retro. That is a beauty. So some of the guys that I think we should watch for today, Brock Besser's name has floated around a little bit. Sam Reinhart, Ivan Provorov, Tony DeAngelo, John Klingberg, Nick Schmaltz, Maxime Comtois in Anaheim. That's another one to watch. Joel Edmondson, Sean Monahan in Montreal. Trevor Van Riemsdyk, if he doesn't get extended, keep an eye out on him. As crazy as this sounds, Jean-Gabriel Pageau of the Islanders, that's something to watch for. Dante Fabro in Nashville, depending on how hard they are selling here. Alex Carrier, I wonder what their status is with him. Yakov Trenin in Nashville, a couple of guys to watch for on very cheap deals. Watch out for guys like that. And Logan Stanley, he requested a trade out of Winnipeg the other day, so watch out for a guy like Logan Stanley. Jordan Greenway, as Urban's mentioning, definitely watch for Jordan Greenway as well. I don't know how much interest there is in him, but that's what we're going to be looking at here today. Teams to watch for today: the Montreal Canadiens, the Anaheim Ducks, the Philadelphia Flyers, the St. Louis Blues, the San Jose Sharks, the Florida Panthers, the New Jersey Devils, the Carolina Hurricanes. Do they have one more big move left in them? Do the Carolina Hurricanes and the Winnipeg Jets, I think, are the most interesting storyline going into today. They have struggled mightily here over the past couple of weeks. They've done really well this season overall. At one point in January, they were first in the Central Division, and they have quickly fallen into the second wild card spot and are 5 points from not making the postseason. So a really, really big stretch here for the Winnipeg Jets. Can they make a move? Can Kevin Cheveldayoff kind of do the uncomfortable move and decide for a guy that's usually very conservative at the deadline? Is he willing to go out there and make a massive move? It's been a really tough month of February. Usually the month of love has been a love of torture for the Winnipeg Jets. They won their first 2 games of the month, and since then, they only beat the New York Rangers. They went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They went 1-5 for their 6 remaining games in the month of February. A really bad end to the month for the for the Winnipeg Jets. So hopefully they're able to turn things around. But the Jets, my goodness, things have gone down south very quickly. So we'll see what happens there. Let me know what you guys think. Welcome to the chat, Mark Berggren. He says, in hindsight, did the Islanders overpay for Horvat? Big names seem a lot cheaper than expected. So it depends on how you look at it, Mark. That's a great question. So my thoughts on the Islanders with Horvat. It depends on how you look at it. The fact that the Islanders were able to lock him up long term, which I think Lou had full intentions before the trade that he was going to sign him long term, I think it was a good move for the Islanders. In hindsight, if the Islanders knew they were going to be without Jean-Gabriel Pageau for potentially the rest of the year and Matt Barzal potentially the rest of the year, I wonder if that would have swayed Lou in terms of making that move. Nonetheless, though, I think the Islanders have to go for it right now. You know, the Islanders are in the second year at UBS Arena, and the fact they didn't make the playoffs this year, they need playoff hockey in New York. You look at, we always talked about how the Devils needed to make the big move in terms of the market. Now it's kind of back on the Islanders. The Devils and the Rangers are making the playoffs this year. There's no real doubt about that. If the Islanders missed the playoffs this year, that is a huge loss in the market, a niche market. The Islanders have to make the playoffs. And I think nonetheless, the Islanders had to make this move. Did it cost too much? It really depends. If the Islanders miss the playoffs this year and next, and that ends up being a lottery pick next year, and the Canucks end up getting a top 10 pick next year, then I think you have some worries, some thoughts for an Islanders fan. If not, if the Islanders make the playoffs this year and next year, I'm not really concerned about that pick. That's the only thing that I'm worried about. I think R2 Ratu is a good player, but I think to some extent there is a reason he got drafted where he did. I think he's going to be a great NHL player, but I think he'll end up being a middle six NHL player. I don't think he's going to end up being a top line, true top six NHL player. I think a second, third line winger is what you're going to see in R2 Ratu. I think that's still a very good player considering Anthony Beauvillier. Again, the Islanders, this is what the Islanders needed. This is what they've wanted, and they finally got their guy. Was it a bit expensive? Maybe, but I think that's what they had to do. Yes, and that's what Ali Desh is saying. But I think it was high because it was basically a sign and trade. Right. And considering the Islanders' position, you were kind of under the assumption that they might miss the playoffs this year. So that has to be a sign and trade. But that's also a benefit for the Canucks because if the Islanders miss the playoffs this year and that ends up being a good pick for the Canucks and maybe fifth or sixth or seventh overall, I think it's top three protected. But if it's a lower pick, that could still be a great pick for the Canucks either this year or next year. So shout out to you guys. And what are they talking about? Oh no, Ray Ferraro's on. Uh-oh. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. And looking at the draft board, I mean the trade bait board, Athanasiou, Nick Seeler, Henrique, Reimer in the top 15. Oh my God, that's disgusting. Nick Schmaltz is on the board. Nemesnikov, Gibson. If Gibson got traded today, that would be very, very interesting. Don says, boo, you're wearing the Bruins Winter Classic. Yes, I am. I do like this jersey. This is a very nice Bees jersey. And honestly, as I think a lot of Bruins fans and Red Wings fans, I've noticed the past like 2 or 3 days, it's very polarizing with what's happened there. I think Bruins fans are either love or they hate the Bertuzzi trade, and they love or hate the Pasternak extension. It's very, very polarizing. And same thing for the Red Wings with the Bertuzzi trade and the Larkin signing. A lot of Red Wings fans don't like the Larkin signing, which I think is very, very interesting. They're talking about the Devils on the live stream here on Trade Center. I had to download ESPN Plus because I couldn't find any bootlegs of this. So hopefully it's worth the $10. We'll see if it's worth it for this month. Maybe I'll watch some even live games on here. We'll see. I don't like the ESPN broadcasters, so probably not, but we'll see. I think the Oilers, honestly, if the Oilers still make a move, I think they need a goalie. I think the Oilers, with the amount of moves that they've made here, for them not to get a goalie, I think would definitely be a disservice because that's been their biggest problem for so many years, right? Even last year, the whole Mike Smith thing. I mean, I felt bad for Mike Smith, but they need help there. Ali Desh says, you know what? The more I think about it, I like Domi to Dallas. I think they needed to make that move. They really, really did. I think they added somebody else too earlier in the week, and I was hoping that wasn't their last move. Don says, why won't you just watch the NHL Network for the deadline? Because I'm watching it on a live stream. I have a TV here that doesn't actually work. So I kind of have a useless TV. So that's why I'm not watching it on NHL Network. And I hate to say it, I don't know. Are they playing the TSN feed on NHL Network or are they doing the NHL Network's feed? Let me know what they're doing on NHL Network because I'm not a huge fan of the NHL Network's broadcast. Yes, Don, I did get back to you. Absolutely. Guys, if you guys, because the problem is, especially my goal line hockey, I don't check the DMs all that much. And especially, even my regular, my personal Instagram, I don't check the DMs that much. So if you guys can, especially if you leave something, definitely let me know. I will answer you guys. Ali Desh says, I have my TV and 2 tablets in front of me right now. Shout out to Ali Dash. That's awesome. And how much of a pain in the ass are the Bruins going to be in the playoffs? I know they're annoyed with the whole situation there, but he's going to be a great fit on that third line. He's going to probably play with Charlie Coyle and I forgot who's on the wing on that third line. But it's the Charlie Coyle line, and Tyler Bertuzzi probably going to be on the left side. I think that's a great pickup. And what sucks, though, is Foligno and Taylor Hall both placed on LTIR yesterday. So the Bruins now, maybe a little bit of controversy, and that team that was just rolling away with the President's Trophy, all of a sudden they have some injuries. So that could be interesting. What are you eating? I'm eating, sounds like a cheat snack. It is. It's juicy, full. I don't know what these are, like gummies. I'm starving. I haven't eaten breakfast today. And I have my protein shake downstairs. I'll have to grab it in a little bit. Gross. I'm surprised that the Senators are still the idea of selling some guys is a little bit weird to me. And I want to know the other night at the Ranger game, did Chikrin come back after the injury? I'm not really sure what happened there with Chikrin because I know he went off the ice. I don't know if he ended up coming back later on in the game. Ali Josh probably knows. Tanner says, after this season, do the owners rethink their option or opinions on the LTIR and cap circumvention? I hate to say it, Tanner. I don't think they will. And the reason for that is I think that it's good for the game. You're going to see, we wouldn't see any of the trades we're seeing if it weren't for the circumvention of the cap. And I think that it's changed the market. It's either they're forcing you to be a buyer where you're keeping up with everybody else, or you're forced to be a seller. And maybe that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing because it makes more coverage for us to talk about, right? Like, when's the last time we've seen a trade deadline because a trade deadline like this, because of the amount of moves that are able to be made because of the circumvention of the salary cap. The fact that Tampa Bay has been doing it for like 2 or 3 years now, everybody's kind of gotten over that. Oh, they're cheating, this and that. As an Islander fan who saw them beat my Islanders 2 years in a row with it, no, the NHL didn't stop it, right? So I think Gary Bettman's going to lay the law a little bit, saying, listen, we shouldn't be doing it. But at the end of the day, I think they're still going to do it. Chikrin is okay. 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 Chikrin, it was okay after the game. Yeah, that's what I was asking about Chikrin's health. And yes, he is. Guys, thank you so much. 20 likes already. Our most liked stream happened this past weekend. We got it up to 30 likes. So I'm looking to break that on trade deadline day, guys. We've got to break that today. And we also, with our last stream on, I think it was Wednesday, we got $90 worth of super chats. So that is a record. Shout out to you guys. That is awesome. 23 likes. Thank you guys so much. Welcome to the chat, Jeff Montgomery. He says the major owners are not going to touch anything about LTIR. Right. Exactly. Because there's too much, again, like the bigger owners aren't gonna say no to that, right? The Bruins, the Leafs, the Rangers, the Golden Knights. the owners that are spending aren't going to say no to it. And like I said, I'm all down for it. I'm a huge fan of it. I think it's a great idea, honestly. Is it fair or not? No, but that's how it works. I mean, we're seeing it even with baseball. The Mets, like I forgot his name, Steve Cohen, Uncle Steve for the Mets fans out there. He's spending he's spending, I think, an extra, like, he gets a penalty for being over the salary ceiling, but he's like, all right, well, we want to win, so I don't care how much I have to pay. He's got the money of God. So I think that is a really funny thing, but we'll see what happens. Don says, I respect all three teams because hockey doesn't get that support in the area, but you got to have a fan, a fave. Come on, LOL. I can't imagine liking the teams equally. Yeah, that is a good point, Ali Dash. Yeah, but he's got all the jerseys. He's shown me he's got the Rangers Lady Liberty jerseys. He's got a home and away jersey. He's got a couple of really nice Islander jerseys and Devil jerseys. He's got like 3 or 4 jerseys for each of the tri-state area teams. Shout out to Don. Urban says, I have one favorite team. I have one team I hate, one team I want to be a GM for, and 29 others I'll watch because I love hockey. That's it, Urban. That is what we should be preaching here on Goal Line Hockey. Exactly. That's kind of how I am. I have one favorite team on the East Coast, one favorite team on the West Coast. I don't really hate teams, honestly. I really don't. Do I have contempt for teams? Maybe. Indifference for others? Yes, but I don't hate any teams. I can say that pretty graciously. There's no team that I would be crying if they had a cup parade for them. Even the Rangers, as much as I'd hate to see a cup in New York, not the Islanders, I don't really hate it, honestly. I really don't. Tanner says, at what point do teams who exceed the cap have to be back cap compliant next season? Again, wait, at what point do teams who exceed the cap have to be back compliant? By the end of this playoffs. So that's why a lot of these guys, their deals are expiring this summer, and that's the only way they get by with it. You need guys on pending deals. Ali Desh dislikes the Penguins, the Wild, and the Rangers. Jeff Montgomery, one favorite hockey team, favorite American team is the Jets and the Islanders. And the way the Islanders kind of smacked around the Jets this weekend, you're probably not a huge fan of that, but at least the Islanders picked up some very needed points. Yeah, the Senators low key have had a pretty good deadline. Honestly, the fact they've added Chikrin and Gauthier. Gauthier, to some extent, is he really that good of a player? Maybe not, but honestly, that's a great pickup for them. And the fact they got rid of Zaitsev's contract is a huge, huge win. Like I said, you guys are talking about Poyarvi. Poyarvi will finally join the Hurricanes Tuesday in Montreal. I want to see what else the Hurricanes do. I think they have a little bit of cap space left. I would keep an eye on them, maybe making another move here. Yeah, they've got 2.6 left. So if somebody maybe retains, maybe the Hurricanes will make one more move. They still have this year's and next year's first round pick. Guys, thank you so much for getting the likes up. We're trying to break the record of 30 likes today. That is our biggest amount of likes in a stream, so hopefully we do that today. MD Parner. Oh, this is Ali Desh's son's account. Shout out to Ali Desh's son's account. Jeff Montgomery asked if I'm a goalie. I am not a goalie. I used to play goal, like just for fun, but I have too much. I have a Tuukka Rask temper, to say the least. So that that career died. But I was pretty flexible for a little while. I did have my glory days. I was not very good though. Flexible, but not a very good goalie. They're talking about Tim Stützle right now. Very underrated guy. I think he's very good. We always talk about Tim Stützle on here. Yeah, get those likes up, guys. Let's get it up to 30 likes. What's going on, guys? What else did Tanner say? I have my doubts. Best case scenario, they trade Coughlin and get someone to retain salary from the incoming player. Cough, Hayes, cough. Yeah, Tanner. Kevin Hayes has been rumored to Carolina. JT Miller's been rumored to Carolina. Please don't do that if you're the Hurricanes. Please don't. Don't do the Canucks a favor by taking JT Miller. Urban came across a funny thought yesterday. Rick DiPietro been out of the league for 10 years, still getting paid for 6 more years. That's right. Rick DiPietro. Yep, I remember him. I have a couple kid-sized youth jerseys for Rick DiPietro. I remember him back in the day. Absolutely. This is from Andrew Gross. He said that he wasn't anticipating being traded, but he's happy to join the Islanders. Speaking of Pierre Engvall, who is the newest New York Islander. So Kevin Weeks tweeted yesterday. He said, "Keep an eye on the down the New Jersey Turnpike in Philly. The Flyers are sellers, but have been quiet so far. I'm curious to see what happens between now and 3 p.m. tomorrow." So Kevin Weeks talking about maybe the Flyers. I'm in agreement. I think the Flyers could make some moves if there's enough of a market. They need to be willing to retain salary on Kevin Hayes, probably not Ivan Provorov, but those are really the only names out there, right? Like Nick Seeler has been thrown out there. Maybe Nick Seeler gets dealt. Other than that, I don't really see much for the Flyers here, unless they're going to trade like a Sean Couturier or a Joel Farabee, which I don't think they're going to do. I honestly don't see much interest in any of the guys left there. Maybe JVR. And this is from Amanda Stein, kind of interesting. She's a Devils reporter. She says, seriously, who would have guessed the Devils would be the second team in the league to hit 40 wins this season? I didn't. And I wanted to go over something really funny with you guys, is my playoff predictions from back in September. And I think you guys are really going to like it because honestly, it's pretty interesting. So I want to know your guys' thoughts, who you guys missed on going into this year and who you guys hit in terms of predictions for the standings. So my predictions for the West, we're going to start in the Western Conference. So in the Pacific Division, first I had Edmonton. Second, I had LA. For the most part, that's pretty good, right? Edmonton and LA are probably playoff teams at this point. Maybe not Edmonton being first, but not terrible. I had Calgary third, so they're right there. They're like a third, fourth team in the division. Then I had Vancouver, then Vegas. So my Golden Knights fans probably aren't going to love that, but I had Vancouver fourth and Vegas fifth going into this season. So Vancouver, a bubble playoff team, and Vegas out of the playoffs. I was definitely wrong on that one. And then I had Anaheim, which I was somewhat right about. Seattle, seventh in the division. I was definitely wrong on that. And San Jose, eighth. So I was right about the Kraken. So there's a couple teams there in the middle where I either got somewhat right or just completely wrong. I was dead wrong about Vancouver, and I was dead wrong about Vegas this year and Seattle. Those three teams I was really off on. In the Central Division, I had Minnesota first, so I was a little bit wrong there. Apologies, Urban. Colorado second. That is pretty dead. That is pretty dead set on. St. Louis and Nashville. Winnipeg. Dallas sixth. So I was really wrong about Dallas. I kind of thought they were going to fall off. and then Arizona and Chicago, which I got perfectly right, those last two. In the Metro, I did pretty good. I said Carolina and New York. That is the exact order in the Metro. Then Pittsburgh and the Islanders, which again, those are fairly close in the same ballpark. Columbus, then Washington, then New Jersey. New Jersey, I had seventh in the Metropolitan Division. I was dead wrong about them. And the Philadelphia Flyers eighth, which I was dead accurate on. So a couple of teams there. I was wrong about Columbus. They're worse than I thought. Washington is pretty close, and I was dead wrong about the Devils. And then to cap it off in the Atlantic, this one's pretty funny. I had Montreal dead last in the division. Buffalo seventh. I was wrong about them. I had Ottawa sixth, which they are going to probably fall pretty close to that. Boston, I had fifth in the Atlantic Division. I was dead wrong about the Boston Bruins. Absolutely dead wrong about the Boston Bruins. Fifth in the Atlantic Division. Then I had Detroit fourth, Tampa third, Toronto second, and Florida winning the Atlantic Division. I was dead wrong about that. So flip Boston and Florida, and I was actually pretty close. But other than that, I was actually pretty close in the Atlantic Division. What are you guys saying here in the chat? Urban said, I watched Greatness yesterday and DiPietro was talking. I wanted him to stop talking. Yes. Yeah. Rick DiPietro, the fact he even has, I mean, good for him. He's carved a career for himself and stuff like that. But I did not. He was the way he ended his career, definitely a lot of bad taste and bitter taste from Islanders fans at this point. Tanner said Pagnotta just posted some of the stuff he's hearing around the league. All right, so I'll go to David Pagnotta. I'll take a look. Thank you for that, Tanner. Let me see. Oh, they're talking about playoff format. Don said, I do hate the Flyers because of Philly. Fans were worst fans in sports, hate the Penguins, and also hate the Bruins because of Bruins fans. Damn, Don. He has got some real hatred for some of those teams, but I don't blame him. Honestly, those are local teams, and especially with New York, right? There's definitely that rivalry between Philly and Boston and Pittsburgh. I think that's a pretty fair assessment there. Shout out to Don Weaver. He's awesome. He's my jersey expert. Anytime I make a jersey video on the channel, it gets like 30 views, and then Don Weaver leaves his comments, and he's like, are you wearing the reverse retro? He is the best. Shout out to Don Weaver, man. Absolute jersey legend. And not from Jersey. Yeah, so we talked about Alex Turcotte, drafted 5th overall in 2019. How crazy would it be if we see Turcotte get traded here? And probably not for the value he's probably worth. Oh, no. Marty Biron's talking some weird shit about a new playoff format. I mean, I don't hate the play-in idea. He's saying that they should do divisional rounds, the top 5 teams, right? Second and fifth play each other, and then third and fourth play together, right? I mean, I guess it could work, but I don't know. The play-in, it gets a little bit complicated. Marty Wolfeyes Biron. Yeah. Okay, so this is from David Pagnotta. He said some chatter with less than 4 hours until the deadline. Pittsburgh still looking, even after the Bonino addition. Seems that Edmonton is likely done. So it sounds like the Oilers are probably done. There's zero salary cap. It would take another trade. Like Bouchard would have to get moved out for them to move salary here. So the Oilers are done. Ottawa could add bottom six center. Believe that Vancouver and Chicago checked in on Turcotte. So he was mentioning two Western teams, Vancouver and Chicago. Interesting. Checking in on Alex Turcotte. Washington's Connor Sheary has generated some interest, so watch out for Connor Sheary and Trevor Van Riemsdyk in Washington. That's for Toe. And eyes on John Klingberg, Kulikov, Derek Grant, and Adam Henrique out in Anaheim. So that's the latest from David Pajnoda. Urban says can't be as bad as hearing DiPietro talk about how he played with Brett Hull. Oh my God. The fact those two ever played together is ludicrous. And shout out to my boy Toe. I know. What's going on, Lev Krupman? Welcome to the chat, Lev. He says, Henrique back to Devils? Maybe. Maybe. I think the Devils might need a third party to get the salary under because they only have 1.2 left in salary. But that could be a possibility. I wouldn't mind Henrique back to the East Coast, especially for the Devils. That would be kind of cool. Yeah, they're talking about 1 through 8 versus like the seating they have now, and it's really not that different. That's the kind of the funny thing. Everybody wants the different formats and this and that, and oh, so from Fluto, so Brad Marchand will be back tomorrow. So I guess he got injured, but he will be back. Yeah, so they're talking about Nick Bonino. So his NHL journey, he was drafted by the Sharks, traded to Anaheim, traded to Vancouver, traded to Pittsburgh, signed by Nashville, traded to Minnesota, signed by San Jose, traded to Pittsburgh. So he's been back to San Jose and back to Pittsburgh, which I guess that's a good thing, right? He's that kind of a guy, a good character guy that teams want to bring him back even after trading him, right? Look at a guy like Marcus Johansson. He left Washington, came back to Washington, left Minnesota, went back to Minnesota. I think there's definitely something to that. Michael Russo. So Urban might not like this. He said things were quiet on the Minnesota Wild trade front yesterday and remains that way as of now this morning. And that's from Michael Russo, Minnesota Wild insider. And this is from Frank Voice Isles. He says, I know I will probably be disappointed, but I have a feeling the Isles have something brewing. Okay, so that's just kind of that's not really anything. Frank Saravelli said Juggernaut Bruins have been one of the busiest teams, adding Bertuzzi, which is the next, or Orlov, and Garnet Hathaway. Possible they add more, few assets, but cap space and now injuries. Early word is Foligno may miss the rest of the regular season, and Taylor Hall still getting evaluated for a knee injury, maybe around 4-week range for Taylor Hall. So a couple of key injuries here for the Boston Bruins, and maybe it frees up a little bit of cap space. So we'll see what happens there. Cap Friendly said 43. Wow. That's the final number of trades we've seen in the 2-week lead to the deadline. 20 is the most we had seen over the past 10 years. Wow. So more than double. And again, a lot of that is because of the cap circumvention. Whether people like it or not, we are seeing double the trades because of it. It is what it is, man. Don't hate the player, respect the game. That's this to a T. And guys, if you haven't already, make sure to like the video. We are so close to our record number of likes in a live stream. Our record is 30 or 31 likes in a live stream from last week. If we could get that up to 35 or 40 or maybe even 50 today, I would be more than pleased with that. So, guys, thank you so much if you could do that. Urban said they would have to put Marchand on two for McNasty. Connor McDavid to the Boston Bruins. I think the world would explode if they did that. I don't see that happening, but I think you guys are kind of just messing with the chat. You guys are pretty funny. Even last week, you guys would say like, "Oh, so and so, somebody traded," and everybody's like, "Wait, he was actually traded," and you guys are just messing with everybody. So we got a couple more notes. Drager said taking the Minnesota Wild are taking calls on Jordan Greenway. They need better offers. So it doesn't sound like the offers have been there for Greenway. Not really too surprising. The Seattle Kraken have talked with the Ducks on John Klingberg. So potentially John Klingberg to the Seattle Kraken. Elliot Friedman said there's some smoke with the Penguins, and the sense is Pittsburgh isn't done after Bonino. They have talked with the Canucks, but it's complicated. And the rumor with Canucks and the Penguins, I've talked about this before. I think they're a perfect trade partner. The fact that you have, a lot of things, honestly, in Vancouver that Pittsburgh wants, and Pittsburgh has things that Patrick Alvin and Jim Rutherford, specifically guys that Pittsburgh has in their system that Rutherford and Alvin drafted. I think there's a lot of smoke around that one. The fact that Kalen Addison, I know he's been having problems with Dean Evison. I wonder if we see some sort of trade with Kalen Addison to Vancouver. That would be kind of interesting. I don't know what's going to happen there. Um, Same thing with Pittsburgh because they drafted a couple of those guys. I definitely would like to see what happens with the Penguins here. Whether they're looking at, I mean, as crazy as this sounds, I mean, Thatcher Demko, JT Miller, and Brock Besser, I would think all three of those guys are probably on the Penguins' radar. The big question is, though, for Vancouver, are they willing to take the salary back? They need to take back a Jeff Petrie. They're going to need to take back a Brian Dumoulin. One of those contracts, potentially both, in order to make that deal work. And Pittsburgh more than likely will have to give up they're going to have to give up their first round picks to make that deal happen. So if they are to do that, it's going to be quite expensive. So we'll see what ends up happening, but there's definitely talk between Patrick Alvin and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Michael Russo was saying Besser seems to have an extra hop in his step tonight for some reason, maybe implying that he's going to get traded. We'll see about that. Oh, Urban said, I only have ESPN Plus because it's packaged with Disney for the kids, and I can watch 75 Wild games a year on it. They had 5 blacked out for this season so far. Wow, that's crazy. Helly Desh says even the streaming giants are trying to make us pay for cable. Yeah, exactly. They want you to pay for every single subscription. And the subscription thing definitely has kind of backfired on a lot of these companies. It hasn't necessarily worked the way they thought it would. And during COVID, it worked. Oh, shit, I said the word. During the pandemic, it worked fine. But I think it's kind of run its course. Now that everybody's back out and I would hope, working and stuff like that, I think it's kind of killed some of that. So Anthony Sanfilipino says, we've all heard Winnipeg and Vegas with interest in JVR. Here's one we haven't, is the Seattle Kraken. They've jumped into the mix. Don't think the return will be great, but I believe these are the teams Chuck is weighing offers from the most at this hour. So it probably sounds like it's Vegas, Winnipeg, and the Seattle Kraken that seem to be the finalists for James Van Riemsdyk. Yeah, the Oilers definitely look better. Yep. Ekholm playing with Bouchard, great fit. That's like this is the replacement to Duncan Keith in Edmonton, bringing in Ekholm because Bouchard played so much better with Duncan Keith there. Now that they've got Ekholm in there, that is what they've needed for so long. And Nick Bukestad comes in, a third, fourth line center. Not a bad pickup for the Oilers there either. Don says ESPN First Take only talks about the NFL and NBA. They don't talk about any other sport. ESPN is supposed to be the worldwide leader in sports. Yo, Don, shout out to Don, just spitting straight facts. You guys are talking about the ESPN Plus and TV packages. I got to be honest, I buy it twice a year for the free agency day and trade deadline day. And it costs me $20 to do that, which is ridiculous, but it is what it is. You know, I think right now this is something that he's 100% right. Like everybody was talking about how good it might be for ESPN Plus to get the NHL and stuff. They don't prioritize the NHL. There's just the market is not big enough compared to basketball and football. They'd rather talk about that stuff. And I hate to say it, Fox is kind of the same thing. They talk a lot about college football and the NFL. It's a shame, but that's the truth. Hockey just isn't demographically big enough. And it's to the point where we have to watch TSN or Sportsnet or these other places up in Canada because they don't have enough coverage in the States. It's a real shame. Really, it is a real shame. Maybe that's what I need to do, guys. I need to create my own network here in the States dedicated to hockey. Would you guys sign up for that subscription? Let me know down below. A full-on hockey in the States subscription. Let me know. Maybe I could work on that this summer. That could be a project. Because it can't be much worse than Marty Biron and DiPietro and all these guys talking. How much? $5? Yes. Yeah, I wouldn't make it expensive. I don't need the whole setup. You don't really need the whole setup in a studio and stuff like that. You really don't need it to be that elaborate. People just want the content, right? As much as everything else matters, it's the content that matters, right? Oh, that's my thought on it, but it definitely wouldn't be like $10 it wouldn't be $20 a month or $100 for the year. It's not worth it. Yo, guys, thank you so much for getting the likes up. We have broken the record for likes here on a Goal Line Hockey live stream. We are at 31. Thank you guys so much. And now on the road to 35 and 40, right? We got to keep it going. Yeah, Ali Desh says, I just want to watch the games. Exactly. There's a couple, and I don't want to, maybe should I give away my secret? There's a really good it's a really good streaming service. It's called, you can watch any sport. They've got, I think it's MLB, NBA, and definitely NHL. It's NHL66.com. They're one of the last holdouts for live streaming hockey. It's called NHL 66. And they don't cover every game, which is kind of a pain, but NHL 66 is a very good source for games. That's actually what I've been using. And they cut out the ads for you during the commercials. You don't see commercials, which is really nice. It just goes to a blank screen that says, the game is not in progress or intermission or whatever. It doesn't cost any money, Ali Dash. It is free. And that's why the people, when they find out about these sites, they get pissed off even more because I'm paying for ESPN Plus and I could get basically the same amount of games on NHL 66. Tanner says, I thought last I looked up, they started charging for NHL 66. They do have like a donation thing, Tanner, but I've been using it all season and I haven't had, again, there's a couple games that I can't watch, but I haven't had any problems in the sense of being able to do it. Yo, we got a super chat from Javante Patton. No way Pens sent Drew O'Connor down just now. No, Javante. No. He's one of their good players. Drew O'Connor and Connor Pickering are the future of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Wow. I don't think Penguins fans are going to be too happy with that. Do you feel above the Bertuzzi? How do you feel about the Bertuzzi trade to the Bruins? Welcome to the chat, Blues Freak. I see you here in the comments. I think Bertuzzi to the Bruins, honestly, I think it's a good fit. I think he's a guy that, especially if Foligno and Hall are out for the rest of the regular season, I think it makes sense. They cannot. I think there's two guys already I'm seeing this summer that are going to get way overpaid in free agency. It's Tyler Bertuzzi and not Dmitry Kulkov, Vladislav Gavrikov. Vladislav Gavrikov and Tyler Bertuzzi are going to get overpaid this summer. I'm already going to say it now. So as long as they don't sign him to a big, massive contract and make that egregious mistake, I think he's going to end up getting like a 5/5. I don't know if that's really worth it, or he signs a very cheap deal. I don't know, but I don't know what the market's going to be, but I think somebody will. If teams are willing to give up a first round pick for him, somebody out there is going to do that. I think somebody's going to overpay for him. We'll see what happens though. He's a big guy that has the potential to score in your top six. It just sounds like it's going to happen any day now. And Javante, I'm trying to answer your question, but it's not loading for me. Saravalli thinks Tampa is checking on Klingberg. Oh my God. If Tampa gets another defenseman, yeah, I don't know, guys. Again, the salary cap thing nowadays, you would never guess, but this is what's happening now. Like, even with Vegas, how were they able to find room for Jonathan Quick, right? Listen, I think it's good. Honestly, as much as it's a pain in the ass, it is what it is. What could Tampa give? They have no picks. I don't know. I have no idea. Nathan Gamer, welcome to the chat, Nathan Gamer. He said, "Do you think the Leafs have a chance at the Cup?" Absolutely. They just have to get through the first two rounds, and everybody else. It's going to be tough for the Leafs. Everybody, Boston and Tampa, Tampa and Toronto in particular, they have to beat each other up, and then they have to play Boston in the second round. And anything even beyond that, just the miracle it's going to take for them to get through those two rounds, either Tampa or Toronto. If they win the Cup, there is nobody that's going to say they didn't earn it. They would absolutely earn it. Yeah, everybody says Leafs lose first round. We'll see. We'll see what happens. You never know. Then Carolina in the conference finals or the Rangers. We'll see. It seems like the Rangers have Carolina's number this year, though. So there is that little sense, and Tanner could probably agree with me. I think there is a little concern Carolina or Rangers in the playoffs again. I don't know how they would do with that. Tanner thinks they get past the first round. We'll see. I think the Leafs have the potential to do it. It's just it's going to take needing a little bit of help. They're going to need a little help. They're going to need to find a way to win some really tough games. It's going to be tough for them, but not impossible. Yep, Frank Saravelli. Klingberg. Jesus. So Seattle's also looking at Klingberg. So it sounds like Tampa Vegas. No, Vegas, not Vegas. So Seattle and Tampa. Sounds like those are the two we're looking at here for John Klingberg. Okay, so this is from Elliot Friedman. He said 2 hours ago, there's a pretty recent update. He said, hearing Washington has decided to keep Trevor Van Riemsdyk due to current injury situation on the blue line. There are rumblings players and team have discussed a post-deadline extension, but that is unconfirmed. So Trevor Van Riemsdyk likely off the board. He'll probably be sticking around in Washington, but keep an eye out for Connor Sheary down there. Javante said apparently sending a couple guys down gives the Penguins 1.9 million to spend. Do they make another move? I think so. If they're really making because I'm trying to pull up their Twitter. Let's see. The Penguins have reassigned Drew O'Connor and Drake Caggiula to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. So that to me sounds like the Penguins are indeed making some roster room, like roster space and cap space. So watch out here for the Penguins here. Maybe they're one of the teams that's in on John Klingberg. Or they are looking to make that move. See, what's crazy is, and this is a lot of things have to fall into place. JT Miller's contract, remember, he's on the final year of that first contract, right? So, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to do this here because I think there's a path for JT Miller to Pittsburgh. I don't think it makes sense for the Penguins. I would love for them to do it because it would cripple the Penguins if they brought in JT Miller. But I think there's a way with 1.9 if Vancouver retained half of his remaining salary for this year and a third party got involved, like a Minnesota trade, got 25% of his salary this year, Pittsburgh would get under that 1.9. Everyone in Pittsburgh is 37. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm going to Cap Friendly and I'm using their trade machine because I think there's a way where JT Miller for this season, going into the summer with the 8 million coming on the books, totally different story. But for right now, if Pittsburgh were to acquire JT Miller, they could make this work. Let's see what we can do here because if there's a double retention, JT Miller could go there. How crazy would that be? Who has the money? I'm going to throw Anaheim. And it doesn't really matter who the team is because they're going to get a fifth round pick. Nathan said, I'm a Leafs fan. I wish the Leafs could just get past the first round. I think the Leafs have a shot of passing the first round, but reason they're not that good in the playoffs is because they have pressure. They're under pressure by everyone. Yeah. That, and again, even right now, the fact that Dubas isn't even looking at a goaltender in the market is a little concerning. Matt Murray hasn't played since, I think, January 15th. And as good as their goaltending has held up for now, I mean, do you see Shalgren or Woll or any of those or Samsonov winning a 7-game series against Vasilevsky and Linus Ullmark right now? Like, come on. Like, I don't care. Like, Tampa's very good. I mean, Toronto's very good. But that goaltending is a brute. Like, they need to fix that. That is not going to work. It's like they make all these trades and then they don't fix the root of the problem, which could be the goaltending. Oh, man, that would be really – honestly, it would be like – then there's that dude, Chesterkin. Yeah. Yeah, it's not working. Let me see what I can do here, guys. Thank you for joining the chat here on this Friday afternoon as we're getting close to noon Eastern here on Long Island in New York. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. They are too confident in Murray. Yeah, that's true. I think they are also. I think Matt Murray can, again, his health status, there's a reason the Senators traded him. Not, again, it's not rocket science. I just don't understand why the Leafs are so like they have to have Matt Murray as their guy because I think it could come back to bite them. I know even like a month or two ago, they were potentially talking about um what's his name? They were potentially trading for UC Soros in Nashville. I mean, as crazy as the price might have been on that, it might have been worth it, honestly. UC Soros would be perfect for the Leafs. They just can't salary cap wise. I just don't think they could find a way to make it work. I'm trying to make this trade work. JT Miller to Pittsburgh because I think this is one that you want to talk about like a trade deadline move. That's a hell of a move if Pittsburgh were to actually do that. Guys, thank you for joining us here today on our Goal Line Hockey Live Trade Deadline edition. And it's been so active with so many trades today that we're talking about JT Miller and a potential trade that didn't actually happen yet. It may never happen. All right, let's see what I can do with this. Do you think the Sabres make the playoffs? Great question from Nathan. Um, I think they do. If it was between the Red Wings and the Sabres, I think the Sabres get into the playoffs. Can JT Miller survive a Crosby run practice, though? Probably not, honestly. Ali Desh says, yeah, this is the first time they're bringing in some muscle rather than more ballerinas. Ali Desh also said, I'm very confident in Murray. Confident he'll break both his arms the next time he handles the puck. Yo. There you go. So the Devils did make their secondary move. Curtis Lazard to the New Jersey Devils for a fourth round pick. Thank you, Urban. Curtis Lazard to the Devils for a fourth. I think that's again, it's a depth pickup. It's not anything fancy. It's not anything sexy, but it's a good pickup, honestly. So JT's Miller cap hit. Again, this is just a trade proposal. Vancouver retains 50%, sends him to Arizona. JT Miller retains 50, Arizona retains 50%. His cap hit for this season, JT Miller would cost $1.3 million. So 1.9 for Pittsburgh, 1.3 for JT Miller. Realistically, if they really are serious about JT Miller going to the Penguins, it is actually possible. Keep an eye out for that, guys, because I think, again, I'm not saying it will happen, but the fact we're even talking about it is stupid. Wow. What does Pittsburgh give up? Okay, so here's my thought. I think because of the JT Miller contract, it's a cap dump for Jim Rutherford. but they're also gonna be able to get something for him. I think a straight up first round pick from Pittsburgh, top 10 protected, goes to Vancouver for JT Miller. Then Arizona has to get something. They need to get some kind of incentive to take the rest of his contract for this year. A fourth or a fifth round pick to Arizona. So a first and a fifth from the Penguins for JT Miller. And that might be why they take Miller because of the really potentially how cheap he could end up being. They don't have to give up a first next year, potentially, and they don't have to give up any more prospects. It could work. So that's my thoughts on JT Miller potentially getting traded. We'll see if I'm right. I've been right here this deadline. I had Ekholm to the Oilers. I had Jeannot to Tampa. We'll see if it happens. Yep, a fourth round pick for Lazar. Jesus, I forgot he went to Vancouver. So the Canucks pick up enough. See, again, what's interesting about this Lazar trade, it seems like a small move, but this could actually help Vancouver if they were to take a player or two back from Pittsburgh. Hold on here a second. There might be more to this Lazar trade than just Lazar getting traded. Might create some more roster space for Vancouver if they decide to do something. Or it is just straight up they just wanted to get something, which it could be just that. Joe Smith said, pretty quiet on the Minnesota Wild front. They arrived at Calgary Hotel around 2 a.m. The war room is up and running, but unless something surprises them today, I don't expect much action. They added two forwards Tuesday, would need right offer to the move Jordan Greenway. Not going to force things. Stay tuned. And it sounds like that's kind of the same sentiment toward Matt Dumba at this point. Hallie Desh says, what team will have their locker room destroyed next? Hashtag JT Miller. Yep. Yep. 100%. Hallie Dash, you are 100% right. Hold on, guys. I'll be right back. All right. I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. Dumba is our rental. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that they're going to keep him as an own rental. The Wild are in a playoff spot at this point. So they really have nothing to lose here, right? If they lose Dumba for nothing this summer, okay. And if not, they keep him. What's going on, guys? Matthews was hurt. Devils won't trade. Oh, Devils trade for Curtis Lazar. Yes, welcome to the chat, Pedro. Yeah, I think it's a good trade for the Devils. It adds some depth at center, specifically on the fourth line. It's not obviously it's not a huge trade, right? They get a fourth round pick in return, but nonetheless, it's a good pickup center depth wise, right? Who's there right now? It's Eric Howla, McLeod, obviously Heishier, right? That's not bad. Good pickup there for the Devils. Urban says Dubba is a leader, great in the room and community. I trade him, but I understand Garen's side too. Don't want to screw up the chemistry. Absolutely. Nathan said, I think the Bruins make the playoffs. They're nasty. Yeah, I think they might make the playoffs. That's a great point, Nathan. I think they might. Just maybe. Yes, Pedro. Yes, good pickup. Definitely good depth. Again, and you look at the Rangers, who they're going to play in the first round more than likely. You need that depth down the middle. It's super, super important, especially when you need to win those important face-offs late in a game. Not that you want to throw Curtis Lazar out there, but I mean, he can kill penalties too if they need him to. He's a pretty good ad. There's a reason he's still in the National Hockey League. He gets bumped around a lot, but there's a reason he's still in the league, and there's a reason teams still pick him up. Dan Rosen said the Devils GM Fitzgerald talked Sunday night about the potential to add depth. Curtis Lazar is the epitome of a depth add, can slide into their bottom six forward group, doesn't have to play every game, but he wins faceoffs, is an insurance policy, and signed for 2 more seasons. I did not know that. That makes the deal even better, honestly. He's got a couple years left on his deal, a very cheap deal. Great pickup here for the Devils. 12th man, Brett. Welcome to the chat, Brett. He says, thoughts on the Kraken in their second season? Impressive. I mean, obviously, if you're comparing to the Golden Knights, maybe disappointment. But honestly, most expansion teams don't do what Vegas did. I think Seattle is doing really well this year. I expected them to be way lower in the standings, and they're playing quite well. I mean, the goaltending is still a little bit sus, and I think that's what people are concerned about right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they went after a goalie. But other than that, they are linked to John Klingberg right now, which could be a really good pickup for them. Yeah, Matt Beniers coming onto the scene really, really helped that group. And honestly, some of the moves that Don Waddell made, right? Who's their GM right now? And Ron Francis. I get Don Waddell and Ron Francis mixed up. Ron Francis he's very good at building up a blue line, and he's done a very good job here in Seattle with kind of building that group up, and it's kind of worked out pretty well for him, especially this year. Urban said, very impressive, especially how bad I thought their expansion draft was and some bad signings, but yeah, impressive. And guys, what did we say in 2017 or 2018 with Seattle's expansion? That they were terrible expansion, and everybody wanted to change the expansion format years later because of how good the Golden Knights ended up being. So it's one of those things where the day of the expansion draft, you might be disappointed, but a lot of those guys turned out to be superstars in the making in Vegas. And we're seeing some of that right now in Seattle too. 12th man Brett says, I'm just excited to have an NHL team here after waiting 30 years and hoping we would get one. Yes. Pedro said, your thoughts on how deep can the Devils go in the postseason? As long as that goaltending holds up, that is one of my concerns for the Devils. I think Vitek Vanacek has done very well so far. But again, when you're going up against Shesterkin in the playoffs or Freddie Anderson in those first 2 rounds, or if you somehow get to the conference finals, potentially Allmark or Vasilevsky, I mean, it's going to be goaltending, I think, for the Devils. If he can hold up, they definitely can go far this year. It's just, again, it's kind of the cop-out answer, but goaltending is key. Yeah, that's what Nathan said. Exactly. It's kind of a cop-out answer, but it's true. You need a goalie that can steal you games. That's what Vasilevsky's done his whole career in Tampa during their playoff runs, is even on a night where your team isn't playing their best game, you need a goaltender that can do the work for you. Welcome to the chat, Tristan. And he says that the Blues won the cup because Binnington stole game 7. Exactly. Exactly, Tristan. Yeah, that's what you need. It might be he might not steal any games during the entire playoffs, but if he steals game 7 of the Stanley Cup final, it was all the while worth it, right? Exactly. Nathan's bringing up the question that I just don't want to answer. He says, "Do you think McDavid leaves the Oilers?" Realistically, no. I can't imagine him leaving the Oilers. With that said, you never know. I mean, it depends on what happens here with this team. Like you see Ken Holland investing in guys like Kane and Hyman and Ekholm. If those work out, and then yes, I think he'll stay. If the team continues to be where they've been, probably not. He might not actually stay. But again, I think people are trying to draw more from that than there already is. Yeah, Gretzky left the Oilers. It's not impossible, but I just think it's very unlikely, at least in this current scenario at this point right now. Dalton Vasallo, welcome to the chat, Dalton. He says, now that New Jersey has acquired Lazar from the Canucks, do you think they go after Demko to improve their goaltending situation? The problem is, Dalton, that's a great question. I think that's a great idea. There's no salary cap. I think it's something where if the Devils here, let's take a look at their cap space because that's a huge part of it. If the Devils have the cap space, maybe. Oh, Zach McEwen for Brendan Lemieux. Interesting. So the Flyers get Brendan Lemieux. Interesting. Nick Delorier, Kevin Hayes, and Brendan Lemieux. I think that's definitely a Tortorella guy. Interesting. Yeah, so the Devils have 1.2 before the Lazar trade. I don't think they could do much else. And guys, hold on. I'm going to have to get this. Hold on.